You're listening to the Achievement Mastery Podcast, the show where ambition meets action and high performers come to break through limits, scale big dreams, and master their success. Hosted by performance coach and achievement strategist Lajos Kovac, a trusted guide to driven entrepreneurs and growth-minded leaders across Europe and beyond. Each episode delivers powerful conversations with world-class experts, visionary entrepreneurs, and unstoppable changemakers, designed to fuel your mindset, your momentum, and your mission. If you're ready to rise above the noise and unlock your next level, you're in the right place. This is the Achievement Mastery Podcast.
Welcome to the Achievement Mastery Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Bobby Shelton, coach, podcaster, and the author of the book Easy Hard versus Hard, Finding the Work That Actually Matters to You. Bobby teaches people how to escape what he calls the easy hard loop, that exhausting, respectable grind where you stay busy, chase approval, and still feel like you're not moving forward. What makes Bobby's framework hit different is that it's not theory only. It's shaped by real transformation, including a major health journey where he's shared losing 180 pounds and rebuilding his life from the inside out. In this episode, we'll dig into the framework, the personal experiences behind the book, and what it looks like to choose the hard path that actually sets you free. Bobby, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. It is my pleasure and honor, and I look forward to our conversation. So thank you.
Let me start with this. What are the most common respectable, easy, hard behaviors that entrepreneurs usually do or fall into?
Yeah, it's hard to give you an exact because for each person it's going to be different, right? But to sum it up, an easy hard task is something that you're doing for the approval of others. It could be a promotion, it could be a title, it could be I don't know. It could be a host of things, right? It could be just sitting and scrolling, YouTube all day and not doing work. Whatever distracts you from being the person that you are is technically an easy hard. So I know for me it was always promotions and working harder and doing all these things, but I wasn't doing it for me. And that's the real key. Easy hard is anything that you're not doing for yourself and not in a selfish way, but in a way that you can then give back to others. So if I'm chasing money or titles or whatever, I'm probably not present for you when I deal with you. I'm not present for my wife, my children, whoever you interact with. It distracts you from who you are. And what I found over time, the more you chase your easy hard, the less you realize who you are as a person. And that can lead to depression, anxiety, stress, all the things that we see, burnout. We see all these in society today. And I think it's largely because we're chasing the wrong thing. I want to please you versus please myself.
You tie this to approval and acceptance. So where does approval seeking hide in high achievers?
I think because it's always more, right? We live in a dopamine filled environment where you could make vice president, but there's always a president. There's always a CEO. There's always somebody who's doing something better than you. So we get in this comparison and then we start looking at approval, right? Where I live, the most common question when you meet someone first is, what do you do? And they don't mean, what do you do as a person? What do you do for society? What do you do for anything? They mean, what do you do for work? Right. So it's always you want to say. So like if you walk into a room and just said, hey, I'm a unemployed podcaster, author, you get less things, right? So people are always wanting someone to like them. And I call it like a self-affirmation. Like people aren't happy with who they are. And I know this is from my experience. So I'm not pointing fingers at anyone because if I am, I'm pointing them right at me because this was me for so many years. You don't like where you're at. So you seek other people's approval. Here's the problem with that. I don't know what you think. You don't know what I think. So if I'm seeking your approval, I'm just chasing a horizon and I'm never going to get there because you probably don't care what my job is. You probably don't care what my title is. You're just making conversation. The problem is that we get asked that so many times and we have these expectations ourselves that we just keep chasing people's approval. And what I find is that we lose ourselves. And losing yourself, losing your purpose, losing your meaning, losing your vision, you lose your soul. And that's what I found. In the Bible, there's a famous quote: "If a man gains the whole world but loses his own soul," Well, that's where I was because I was always wanting somebody else, and you're always disappointed. You get passed up for a promotion, or you fail a test, or you don't pass a certification your first go. It starts getting on your psyche, and the more you do that, the more you fail, I think, at other people's approval, the more you seek other people's approval to make yourself feel better the next time.
Sounds very interesting. And that reminds me to something. I had a conversation one day with someone, a friend of mine, also from the US. And she said, yes, the first thing Americans ask, and it's more of a little bit of cultural awareness or cultural intelligence, is yeah, what do you do for a living? But the reason behind is not just plain conversation, but they determine your value based on your answer. And this is something also what you said. So if you say, yeah, I'm an unemployed podcaster, they put you somewhere on the scale, yes, in the food chain. So yeah, it might sound an innocent question, but it values you. They put a price tag on you or a value tag on you based on what you say, who you are, or what you do for a living. So it's very interesting. And this concept, I know that because we know each other, it has a personal aspect. So where did this concept come from? What was happening in your life when you realized I'm in easy hard?
Yeah, very, very good question. And it's something I like to talk about because so many people are going on the same path. I was just fortunate enough that I realized it. So it all started one day. My wife told me I was the angriest person she knew. And she's cautious about me telling the story because my wife is the sweetest, kindest person in the world. I love her to death. And she said it out of kindness, as much as that can be kind, right? And I started thinking, I was like, you know what? I'm the angriest person I know too. And I wanted to figure out why. I wanted to be less angry. I was anxious. I was depressed. I was doing all these things that weren't me, but I didn't really know at the time if that was me. So to make a long story longer, I started down a journey. At the time, I weighed 354 pounds. Okay, I was previously when I was a younger man, a big runner, in the army. So I couldn't believe that I had gotten to that weight. So I thought, well, that's where my anger is coming from. I've let my discipline go. I've let myself go. I've let everything go. Okay. So I started down this path, started losing weight, and it wasn't giving me the satisfaction until one morning I looked in the mirror and I said, man, this isn't for anyone else. This isn't so people look at me differently or whatever. I've got to make this about myself. Okay. So to make that journey further, I still didn't sneak into the easy hard versus hard method at that point. I was still seeking the approval of others. So after I had lost all the weight, I still found that I was unhappy and I was still angry. So I decided I needed to suffer more. And I thought about it, well, I did all this hard work to lose weight and it was hard. It was a lot of work, but I didn't get the satisfaction. So I was like, what else do I hate? Because I felt like I had to punish myself because then I'd like myself, right? So I enrolled in my doctoral program because what did I hate? I hated reading and I hated writing. I was like, what better way to suffer and find myself? And then I'll become a doctor and I'll like myself. Well, about midway through the course in the curriculum, I got so burned out. And I just said, I can't do this. Like, I don't want to be doing this. Why am I doing this to myself? I'm unhappy. I'm stressed all the time. I'm not sleeping. And I took some time off. And during that time off, the thought hit me. It's like, you know how sometimes when you stop doing things, that's when the best thoughts come in? Well, in my case, this was the case. And it was like, look, whether or not I become a doctor, whether or not I finish this course doesn't make me who I am. It's just another title. It's another accolade that I can put on my name. So when I sat there and thought about it, and I was going to take a semester off, it ended up being 2 semesters. And during that time, I decided, you know what? This is what I want to do. This is something I want to do for me, not for the title, but because I want to learn. I want to help others because, like I said, it was that aha moment we talk about as coaches. I want to help others not get into the trap I am. And the best way to do that is to become a good researcher, learn how to write, how to do all these things. So I took something I was chasing that was an easy hard because I was doing it for an approval of others. And in this case, it was kind of even for my own approval. Like, oh, if I'm Dr. Shelton, which I don't even really call myself. It's funny to hear that because my mom's a Dr. Shelton. So whenever someone says that, I think, oh, is my mom here? But it's one of these things where like it transformed me. And so I wanted to go do it. So it became a hard. And I started chasing it and knowing that there was a future. And I tell you what, I'll end this story with this. I told you, I thought the day I became Dr. Shelton, I would love myself. Okay. I thankfully got past that and that didn't happen. The day my diploma came, I'm leaving my garage, open the garage door, and a box just falls in. And my wife's like, "Oh, what's that?" And it looked like a pizza box. And I was like, "I don't know, maybe it's my diploma." And that's what it was. It was just in a box, no portfolio, nothing. And my wife goes, "Oh man, that is so disappointing." And I go, "You know what? No, it's so beautiful because this is just a piece of paper. This is not Bobby." Now that I found my hard, which is helping people, putting this message out, what we talked about earlier, observing for people, because I find the more we chase other people's approval, the less we can observe ourselves. So sometimes they need a book, they need a podcast, they need a little Instagram message or something to say, oh, yeah, maybe right. So my point on all this is that's how I came up with it because I stopped chasing the approval of others. Now, if I go to the party, going back to our example, or I meet someone new and they ask me what I do, I can now not say what my job title is. I cannot say anything. I can say what I do is try to make other people find work that actually matters to them. It confuses people, but yet at the same time, there's no judgment there because that's who I am. That's what I want to show up to the world to be. Not what I do, for my other profession, not what I've done, not what I plan to do. This is what I'm doing right now, you and me. You're the most important person in my life right now. I want you to know that. Let's see where it goes. So does that answer your question? I know that was long-winded.
I think, yeah, I think you answered my question, and it's very funny that you said because you can't put a price tag on this answer.
Mm.
Yes. Yeah.
No, no, I wish I could bottle it and sell it as a pill because when you make that shift, and it's not, I'm not here to say that you just snap your fingers and you go from not liking yourself to loving yourself. It does take time and it takes constant work, but every single day gets easier. And once you find work that matters to you, what I've called the hard, your whole world. You get more time, you get more energy, you get more focus. We love to throw around the word clarity. I thought the word clarity was kind of like woo woo speak or something that people just said. Once you switch from caring what others care about and doing what you want to do, you do have clarity because every morning you wake up and you're like, I get to go do this. Not I have to or I should. It's like, man, I'm excited. I am gonna take on what I want today and make myself better. And then you have better approval at night. Like when you go to bed at night, you're like, oh, maybe I didn't get everything done on my list, but man, I am a better Bobby than I was, the day before.
Thank you for sharing this. What
No problem.
surprised you the most when you began choosing hard?
What surprised me the most is how the world opened up to me. Like one thing, it's Thanksgiving week here in America, right? And so Thanksgiving is a time we're supposed to be thankful. Sure, I say thank you to people. If someone gives me a gift or gives me time, I always say thank you. But the thing I found is once I found my heart, the level of gratitude that I had in my heart, I truly understood it for the first time. The fact that you've taken time today to talk to me and put me on your podcast is amazing. And I'm grateful for that. That simple act, because you know what? I love myself. Before I didn't love myself. So I'd be in the back of my mind. I might have been here, but I'd be like, why is he talking to me? Like, who wants to hear what I have to say? Because I didn't want to hear what I had to say. So once you start loving yourself, and truly being comfortable in your own skin, the world just so that surprised me because that has nothing to do with work. That has nothing to do with anything. That's just how you go about your day every single day. You're kinder, you're more patient, you open the door for people like you're supposed to, being a gentleman and taking care. But that's a dopamine hit for me now, is like how grateful I am for others when they do something for me. And that's something that I missed I'm 47 now. I probably missed it for 46 years of my life. And it's such a beautiful existence to be in that state now.
I'm very, very happy that you mentioned, love. And I have a very funny story. It's not funny, it's a touching story about this. I have a language school also, and when I started teaching English back in the days, we have our books with questions, answers, and everything, but it's there for the sake of teaching people English. It's not there to teach, I don't know, life philosophy or whatever. But there was one question there that we went through all the questions, all the answers, and there's just one question appeared. And that was, what's the meaning of life?
Mm.
And it's very interesting because this method teaches you the answer. You don't expect the student to find out the answer, but the answer is also there. But you have to teach. And the answer was, the meaning of life is to love and being loved. That was a moment, when I read this for the first time. Well, this is much more than just a language book. That was a very simple explanation, but a very true explanation of the meaning of life.
I love that.
And it's
And I,
still, yeah, it's still with me ever
yeah,
since. And it's really very simple and very true.
yeah,
It's to love and being loved. Because if you don't have anyone or anything to love, or you don't love yourself, you can't give or can't receive love, then probably
yeah,
that's the worst possible state in existence.
yeah, yeah. And I know
Existing
from someone who lived it.
without
Yeah,
love. Yeah. And I
yeah.
learned this from a language book, not from,
Wow.
a coaching session, not from, I don't know, motivational speech or anything like that. It was a language book.
It's so amazing where these little simple words and phrases come into our lives, right? You could be, walking down the street and hear somebody say something that they're not even talking to you. You just overhear it and it changes your course. And something like that is so great. And how many people have glossed over it, but then how many people haven't has it changed them? But yeah, truly, truly what this whole thing is about. And yeah, sure, it talks about work and what matters and all this stuff. But ultimately what matters is that you love, yourself, you love others. We've heard the golden rule, treat your neighbor as yourself. How can you treat your neighbor if you don't like yourself? Like, do you go around and be mean to your neighbor? Like I'm a big proponent of this thing called self leadership theory, which is you got to lead yourself before you lead others. In self leadership, there's a thing called self talk, positive self talk, and even in the coaching curriculum, and I know you know about this, is like how you talk to yourself is very critical, right? So I used to be very negative with myself, like Bobby, you're no good, you're failing, you're no use to your family, you're letting everyone down. To break that, I started talking it out loud. And sometimes my wife will walk by and she goes, "Who are you talking to?" I'm like, "Myself." And she's like, "Why would you say that to yourself? Why would you say that to anyone?" And that's the truth of this, right? I would never say that to you. If a friend came to me with a problem and said, "Oh, I missed this opportunity or whatever," I wouldn't be like, "You're so stupid. You're letting everyone down." No, I'd be like, "Oh man, it's okay. You'll get back on the horse. You'll find a way." And that is so critical, like I said, just to love yourself, and I'm so glad you keyed on that. I hope your students at the time did, and who knows, but that's a great concept of that's better than anything that we could talk about is today, is that if people can embrace that concept of love, and then the easy hard will go away. The hard will start coming in your life. You'll start finding work that matters because you're gonna pursue that love, and that's the ultimate dopamine hit that we can all get, is to be loved and to love ourselves.
If you're listening right now and you're thinking, this is me, I'm busy, I'm doing all the right things, but it doesn't feel like my life. Pause and do this. Leave a comment with one word that describes your current default mode, loop or lead. And if you want more conversations like this, please follow or subscribe. You don't miss the next episode. Bobby, we talked before the show, and you mentioned that you had some difficulties with the title Easy Hard versus Hard Hard. Can you just explain this to me and the audience a little bit, just not to get confused, because we still call the book, or the title of the book is Easy Hard versus Hard Hard, but now on the internet, you use a different title for your program. Can you just share some insights about this?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I started a podcast based on the book. So I did have a podcast called Easy Hard versus Hard Hard. I was getting banned from social media with that title. They said I wasn't meeting community guidelines and all that. And this is the last thing I want. I don't want my production. I don't want names. I don't want anything that comes out of my mouth because I am human. I am flawed. I'm still working the easy hard versus hard hard method myself. I don't want that to get in anyone's way. So I've decided to change the name, and then we're going to call it the Self Leadership Lab. And that gives you an open forum to talk about all manners of self leadership. Because, like I said, anything self dash, if it's self discipline, self motivation, self inspiration, all of those we can talk about and cover and just see where it goes. And then that gives me also flexibility in the messaging and then how I put it out there. So I hope it doesn't confuse people. And I appreciate you bringing that up because if people do want to go find me, it's going to be the Self Leadership Lab on everything, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, all that.
Okay, but the book is still available with the title Easy Hard versus Hard Hard. Yes?
Correct. Correct. And right now it's on Amazon.com. And I tell you one thing I did exciting last, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, as I filmed the audiobook. So that is coming. I will put the audiobook out as a podcast so people can listen to it because a lot of people don't like to read or can't. And I don't want people to have to go through that whole Audible, whatever. I wrote this book not as a moneymaker. I wrote this book to get the message out and get people thinking. The biggest payment for me is if someone listens to it, reads the book, and sends me a comment and says, "Man, you've changed the way I've thought." And I tell you what, I would have been happy if one or two people changed their life. I'm getting so many people come to me and say that they're thinking about things or writing me questions, and it's so beautiful.
Okay, and the book is available below this video in the show notes. So click on the link, get Bobby's book, and it doesn't even cost much. It's like 1 point something dollars, if I remember correctly. So it's really not pricey at all. It's almost free. But my question is, why did you write that book? And what pain or pattern were you seeing too often?
To be honest, I wrote the book for myself. I wrote it to consolidate my thoughts, to prove to myself that, hey, you've got a synthesized message. I tell you what, it was painful because I came from the world of academia. And academic writing is so much different than writing a book, right? Writing a book needs to be more conversational, like we're having right now. And so that was the biggest pain point for me was transitioning from that to this. And then, fortunately, I had good support along the way, and people would tell me like, "Hey, just record your voice like you're having a conversation, and then do the transcriptions," and that kind of helped me. Like in academia, you never use contractions, right? So you don't use don't, can't, didn't, all those. And that just blew me away, and then I'd send it to the editor, and the editor would come back and say, "No, no, no, you've got it. This is too formal. No one's gonna read this." And I tell you what, after doing the audiobook, I realized one other thing. I wrote very long sentences. So in my next book, I'm being very careful to be more concise, and it's gonna make me a better communicator. So all the work that went into it really has made me, I think, set me up for the future.
Is there a chapter or idea you think is the most uncomfortable, but the most important?
I think there's two. The first is what are you gonna do with this information, that chapter? Because you can learn all you want about anything in life, but what are you going to do about it? And then probably even more important than that, but also correlates to that is you got to take action. No matter how much you think about something, how much you plan, until you take that first step, nothing's going to happen. I love to say 10x of zero is still zero. You've got to have more than zero in your time, your effort. And the biggest thing here is you're not going to be perfect. To get to where I am today, I broke a lot of eggs. I made a lot of mistakes. I chased a lot of what I call easy, hard tasks, thinking it would make me better. And again, it took me. And you can do this for things that are good for you. Like when I was working out, an example for that. I thought I had to work out 2, 3 hours a day to make it work. Well, what that did is that wrecked my body. I didn't get time to adapt. It took me time to learn that. Now, had I just read a bunch of books on how to work out and never once went to the gym, so what's worse? Well, in my opinion, doing nothing is always worse, right? So, what are you going to do with the information? Collect information, get comfortable. You've got to remove that self-doubt because without removing that, you're never going to take the first step. But you have to take the first step. So I encourage anyone listening today, if you're thinking about making a change, Don't put it off. Don't say after Christmas, after the new year. Start today. And there's plenty of other people who are way smarter at this than me. There's Tiny Habits by James Clear, very good book. Just start small. Let's say you do 10 push-ups a day for the month of December or the month of January. That's way more than you did today, right? There's 31 days. That's 310 push-ups. How many did you do today? So it doesn't take much, but take action and make sure you don't overload yourself with information.
Thank you. Yes, as they say, the best time to start making a change is now. Bobby, we
Yeah.
have a rapid fire question section in my show, and I would like to ask you a couple of rapid fire questions. Are you ready to take the shot?
Let's do it.
All right. So the first one is, what's the one book that influenced you the most, and why that one? Apart from yours, of course.
Yeah, no, no. Oh man, I love the book The Stoic Edge. It outlines the stoicism and the way Stoics think because I think that having that kind of perspective in life in 2025, that was the most influential book for me.
Great, thank you. Here's the second rapid fire question. What's one habit you basically never skip, even on chaotic days?
Working out, doing some kind of physical movement, whether it's a walk or whether it's a full-blown workout. I move my body every day, non-negotiable, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Awesome. Here's the third one. If you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be?
Stay true to yourself. Not rapid fire, but I will elaborate on that a little bit. You may meet people who are 40, 60, 80, and they tell you, I feel the same as when I was 4 or 5. That's true. Who you are is who you are. The more we allow ourselves to be distracted by approval or chasing things or whatever, we get away from who we are. So I would tell myself, this is who you are. You are a good, caring, loving person. Always be that.
Something you had to unlearn to reach your current level.
Long hours and working harder than everyone in the room is not the key. Sometimes less is more. We say that as a phrase, certainly here in America, people say less is more all the time, and less certainly is more. You showing up and being present and focused on what you're doing at the time, you're not going to get procrastination. You're not going to get the burnout like we talked about earlier. You're going to be so focused. So that is one thing I had to learn is like I don't have to work the most hours in the room. I just have to be the most effective and efficient with the time that I have. That blew my mind because I always were like work hard, work hard, work hard. I mean, all the coaches, all the self motivation books that you can read always tell you you're not working hard enough. Well, no, I think once you find the work that you want to be doing, you don't have to work as hard. And you also have to let yourself rest so you can get these ideas, as we talked about earlier. My biggest revelations in my life have come in periods of rest and recovery. So that's one thing. You don't have to work as hard as you think you do. Work hard, but work efficient, work effective.
Yes, I think working efficiently is much more important than working hard. You're absolutely right. Is there anything else you would like to share with us?
I just want to tell everyone who's listening, we've talked about a lot of deep topics today, and I am a living proof that there is hope. There's nothing extraordinary about me. I am just a normal guy, live a normal life. You can make the change. Believe in yourself. I know I believe in you. Probably will never meet me, but I believe in you. Believe in yourself and find work that matters and find that true happiness. Find the love so you can then love others and reap these rewards. Like I said, I can't write you a prescription. I can't give you a drink, an elixir to make you feel this, but start taking steps and experience it for yourself. Make it your own path. Take what I have if that helps you. I can't motivate you. Only you can maybe I can inspire you. Only you can motivate yourself. Only you can be determined. So find that determination, find that willpower, go out there and do it. We're all counting on you. Make the end of 2025, the beginning of 2026 your turning point. Don't be like me and wait, wait, wait. Don't chase what's next. Find happiness today. Like you said, the best time to start is now. And I think that's the one message I would leave everyone with. But go out there and do it, and we're all applauding for you and rooting for you.
Obi, that was truly powerful. Thank you so much. If you got value from this episode, drop a comment with your biggest takeaway and tell us what you're choosing this week, the easy hard loop or the hard work that matters. Please like and subscribe so more high performers can find this conversation. Until then, keep striving, keep growing, and I will see you in the next video. Bobby, thank you for being here.
Thank you. My honor, my privilege. Thank you again.